If we look not just at whole numbers, but actually look at integers as well, meaning that we're going to include some negatives, number lines are absolutely the best way to do this. This really is the only visual that works well with comparing positives and negatives. There may be some other visuals, but like this really is the best one. And drawing your base 10 blocks, that worked for whole numbers. But like when you have negatives, like it's really confusing. Like how would you draw a negative number of snap cubes or base 10 blocks? So this is a really nice visual. It's still just whichever number is furthest to the right. You just have to realize that numbers to the left of 0 are negative, and they kind of have a symmetric quality about them, whereas the number part of it gets bigger as the number moves more left. But really, the number is getting smaller. It's just because it's negative. You can see we're going to compare 14 and -6. And I use number lines, like even if I don't draw them, I absolutely like if I'm comparing a positive number with a negative number, that's usually not too bad. But like if I'm comparing two negative numbers, I'm usually visualizing that number line. And that will continue when we go on to adding and subtracting. So as soon as you've got negatives, especially when you first introduce it, number lines are really a great visual tool. So 14 would be really close to 15. -6 would be just a little bit to the left of -5. And so we would say that 14 is definitely further to the right. So 14 is greater than -6. So again, that one's not hard because, you know, hopefully most students would understand after a little bit of introduction that positive numbers are greater than negative numbers. But you can see that very nicely on the number line. Then we get to two negatives. And so this is where students can definitely get confused on this. And so it's good to have the visual. So -57 would be in between -50 and -60. Whereas -95 would be in between -90 and -100. And so you can see like that's confusing for students because most students are like, oh, 95 is bigger than 57. But when it's negative, -57 is further to the right. So that means that we would use a less than symbol here since -57 is the bigger number.